Hello, hello. All right, guys. Put this right here. Make sure I got. Hello, gonna wait and see if anybody joins tonight. What's up? What's up, everybody? Plug in my phone, put it there so I can see. What's up, Devin? Sorry, I have to make do with where we're at because if you did not know, we are selling our house. So we are literally not remodeling, but finishing up everything. And so this has been a crazy week, but decided that show must go on. So what's up, Paul, Todd, Beth, Beckman, what's up? What's up? So we will wait a couple minutes to let some people join on. I have Amber with me in the background. Super excited to get her on here. But yeah, so it's been literally a crazy week. So we decided on a Friday that we met with the realtor and decided to see if our house was worth selling. Turns out it is in the market that we're in right now in Northwest Indiana. So me and my wife decided that we're selling the house and packing up the RV and heading south between Alabama and all that stuff. So it's going to be a crazy couple weeks. So, and depending on, we will still have lives for the rest of the year. But for me, I might have different scenery depending on if we have showings or whatnot on Tuesday nights with the house. So you might see this is a little different scenario right here. So yeah, so let's get started. Let's see, we got any more people? Yeah, so it's going to be a crazy week and just super excited to be here and with everybody. What's up, Ashley? All right, so without further ado, let me bring on Amber. Let me see if I can get this right. What's up?
Hello.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Oh, trying to get this going. All right. So, without further ado, we have our special guest, Amber, aka Pretty in Points on Instagram. Super excited to have her tonight, and figured let's just get started. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
All right, sounds good. So on Instagram, I'm Pretty in Points. So if you don't follow me there, that's where I spend most of my social media time. I do check in on Facebook, but mostly I'm interactive on there. So I live in Maryland on the East Coast, so 7:30 Central Time. I'm 8:30, so it's a little late for me over here. But I'm 37, and I am a mom to a toddler. He'll be 3 next month. My son Jack. So very tired at this point of the day. But I, recently became one of the newest iTrackBites ambassadors. So I think I did a couple of things so far on Instagram and on the blog in November. I'm going to do a couple more blog posts this month, and I'm excited to be here. So what do you want me to tell you about? Where do you want me to start?
No, that's awesome. First of all, children, we have 2, me and my wife. Our oldest is going to be 7 in January, and our youngest is still 4. So it doesn't get any easier as they get a little older. I'm hoping, when they get teenagers, maybe, but then it'll be a whole another thing that may get aggravated. So,
right.
So yeah, that's awesome. Maryland, that's awesome. So what made you decide? So from the last 37 years, did you struggle with your weight your whole life, or was it
not my whole life, but probably since 2nd grade.
Really?
So as long as I can remember, I was the chubby kid in elementary school. If anyone's wondering if there is the last kid picked in gym class, there is, and that's me. And nice to meet you. So I have always been overweight to different extents. Didn't really understand anything about nutrition, didn't play sports in school, wasn't really that active. I was more on like the theater and the choir and that kind of stuff. So I think I started my first diet when I was 15. So I think all I remember about it was like, I think I can only have grapefruits in the morning. I don't remember what else was involved. It was like one of those like newspaper article diets, you know, that I tried one summer. And then I did like Atkins when Atkins was like the thing before Dr. Atkins passed away, when it was still like a popular thing, right? I did that in college. So I remember just eating like peanuts and cheese for like a lot of college. But that's when I first also started Weight Watchers. So when I was in college, Weight Watchers was like a website that you could log into. So I didn't do meetings, but you could do it through the internet. So I did that. And that's when I first started to lose.
That was a long time ago then.
It was a long time ago. Yeah, like it was like a little pop-up, like a flash pop-up on your screen. But so that was like the first time I think I actually lost weight without being like really extreme. But I still like started working, gained weight, lost weight, on Weight Watchers, off Weight Watchers. And then I would try like every extreme diet. Like I'm like, if someone says you can eat 7 bananas a day, like I'm like, okay, I'll try that. I did the thing with the hot pepper, like the cayenne pepper and the lemon juice that Beyonce does. Did that. The master cleanse. Nope, didn't work. So you know, I've been just trying different things my basically whole adult life.
Isn't this so crazy? I just seen somebody just posted on the iTrackBites participants page like yesterday. It was like, if you were the only one on a deserted island, like would losing weight be your main priority? And it really hit me where it was like, well, no. And then it really made you think like, who are you trying to impress? But I don't really think it's about impressing. I think that's what a lot of people think about. It's like, oh, I'm going to lose weight to like look better and this and that. I think it's like overall, like you can strive to be healthy no matter what it is. You know what I mean? So
I completely agree. And I saw that post too. And my first instinct was no. I would be like, well, but you don't need the energy for your kids if you're by yourself on a deserted island. You don't need, the same stuff that you need living in.
Yeah, it actually like lives with you on the deserted island, like your phone or. So what brought you along? So what was like your major? So besides iTrackBites and like Weight Watchers, all that stuff, but like, when was there like before you lost all your weight, was there like a time in the past that you were successful, like very successful at it at one point, or was it just like up and down, up and down?
So I feel like there were a couple like highlights throughout the journey. So the first one, I was still in my 20s, and it was when Weight Watchers had the core plan, where you could have as much sugar-free pudding as you wanted, and popcorn, and like a lot of the foods that are now like 0 bite foods, but like fat-free dairy was part of it. And I was really successful with that because at the time I was like a busy young professional. I was actually working in New York City.
Was that like Simply Filling back then? Is that what you're kind of talking about? Like Simply Filling, or it was like a
yeah. So before it was called Simply Filling, I think it was called Core.
It was, yeah.
And you didn't. So it was like with the 0 bites food. So you didn't have to track a lot. So I just only ate 0 bites foods, but it had more to it, right? So I could have a latte
like cereal and oatmeal and all
that. Like those like boring cereals though, like puffy
like
wheat ones.
Yeah,
you know. But I would eat that with like a Splenda and skim milk, and I was like fine. And so I lost a lot of weight for my friend Renee's wedding. Maybe I'll post a picture because we had digital cameras back then. So maybe I'll post a picture on my Instagram so you could see like thin. I was like thin because that's what I was doing. Like I wasn't eating anything else. I was just eating those foods. So it's a little extreme, but healthy foods, I guess. And then I stopped doing that.
Yeah, that's what the whole program was about way back then, was trying to, I think it was kind of like, it was kind of getting you successful to, like with better balance, you know what I mean? With having all those 0 bite foods, like you could have, because I think on Core, you got so many bites a week or points a week, right? That was like used for extras. Like, so say we're going out to eat or just whatever you could.
Exactly. And it was like being in New York City, it was really easy too because there were all these places where you could just do like a stir fry and like you just pick all the stuff that was zero. I think brown rice was zero. And
Mhm.
so I would just do that, throw some soy sauce on it, and we're good to go. But then I just, you get sick of it. Like the holidays come up, you go
Yeah.
home, right? I was young. I was going home. I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm from northeastern Pennsylvania, for anyone who's from the Scranton Wilkes-Barre area. And then you eat like everything. So it
Yeah.
was just like a roller coaster.
Yeah. What did you do in New York for work? Like when you were there? So what led you to New York? Was it work wise?
Yeah. So I work in finance. I still do. So I was working at investment bank in New York City, which was fun. And you got a lot of movement naturally living in a city. So now I'm outside of Baltimore, but in like, if anyone saw Instagram today, there was a pig at my next door neighbor's house today. Like I'm in the country. So you don't get all that walking that you would normally, that I was getting, just walking to work from the bus and things like that. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm getting ready to go back into accounting with my degree, and so it's kind of I'm like, I don't know.
It's so fun. Numbers are so fun.
No, I am literally like that's so funny that I now know this about you because I've always I originally went to be like a math teacher and then decided I don't want to do kids like in school like to teach math. So I just went to be an accountant, which loved it all the years I did it. But no, that's pretty awesome. So I might have to pick your brain a little bit later.
Definitely.
So where at now? Like New York, like you said, there was a couple successful moments.
Right. And then and then it just creeps back on, right? And I think maybe at that point I also started getting more into exercise, so like official exercise. So I joined a gym and I would go to like 2 or 3 classes, cardio classes with my friends as something to do. And then I started training for a half marathon, which I did in Nashville, the Rock and Roll Country Half Marathon or whatever it's called, where you get really hungry training. So I'm sure Paul talks about this, like running makes you hungry.
Yeah.
So I feel like I kept trying to like follow what I had done before I was more active, but I would just always be hungry. And I think at that point I tried Nutrisystem for the first time, where all your food comes in boxes that are not perishable. So I don't know if anyone's ever tried that, where I was eating like cardboard pizza as like a meal.
Yeah. Like my aunt did it once, and she was just like, "Oh, this is gonna be so great!" And it literally. And then like if you ever go to Walmart now, you see it like in the pharmacy aisle, and I'm always just like, oh, that just doesn't look good.
See, I see people saying like, I've done all of those and many more. Yes, Sherry. Yes. And it's fun to talk about. It's like interesting to talk about, but it doesn't work.
Well,
it's not sustainable.
It's what brought you up to where you are right now.
So I feel like so much happened. I left the New York City area. I moved down to Baltimore. I had the most stressful job I ever had. So I was still at the same company, but doing a totally different job. And I became an emotional eater in a big way. I would stop at Dunkin' Donuts on my way into work, commute, eating. Like, don't do that. Don't eat Dunkin' Donuts in your car while you're driving on the highway. But that's what I do every morning. And then like whatever you could grab for lunch, like so much fast food, so much like happy hours to relieve stress, like not caring like what I was eating. And I think I was still tracking. Like I've always tried to track one way or another, but that's when I like packed it on and got to my highest weight. So my highest weight, just for you guys, because I'm sitting, you can't tell, I'm only 5'2". I'm really short. So my highest weight was 210.
My sister's that high. Yeah.
It's short. It's not, you have nowhere to hide it. So I got up to 210. That's the highest, I think. And then I was like, wow. So here was the turning point for me. So you mentioned Walmart. So I'm going to tell you a story about Walmart.
Oh, Lord.
I was shopping at Walmart for some groceries in my work clothes, and I bent down to pick up something from a lower shelf, and I ripped my pants.
Ripped your pants? Oh, my goodness.
And at that point, maybe they were not quality pants. Maybe it wasn't because I was 210 pounds at the time, and I was trying to fit into the pants, but I was like, something has to change. Like this isn't good. This
Yeah.
isn't good.
That's crazy.
And that's when I just really was like, I'm sticking to my points. I'm tracking. I'm getting exercise in every day. And I stopped drinking alcohol, full stop. Stopped drinking alcohol the whole time I was losing the weight. And I was like, this is more important. So when I would go to like a happy hour or like a friend's party, I would be like, I'd rather spend my points on food. So I'll have some cake.
Definitely. Chips and cheese or whatever.
Right. Like, I don't know. Those things make me happy too without the hangover the next day.
Oh, no, definitely. So like with points and stuff, have you always been on that type of system? Like trying to lose weight besides like the fat diets and Atkins and all that stuff?
Yeah, I have my Fitness Pal as an app too that I was using for a while. So I actually worked with a nutritionist, like a registered dietitian for a while, and she had me tracking there. It's just not as fun, like to track. And you guys might have seen, like I tried to go back to Calorie Command for a little bit on iTrackBites. It's just not as fun to be like you have 1,450 points a day. Like I'd rather be like you have 26. Like,
girl, you have no idea. You have no idea. When I tried, like literally from the points person I tried when I went and did calories for like a month or so. I literally was like, okay, how many, like with points plus or carb conscious? I was always like, okay, normally 3 bites is 100 calories. So I get this many a day times that, the mathematician, times that, then 49 is this many calories. Divide that, because I was just like, what's going on? Like, I know the system I am, and I couldn't handle it. It stresses me out. Now, I don't even back when I was at my lowest, I never tracked calories as a second command, like a second metric. I've always just been like, I'm either tracking calories or I'm tracking points or bites. Like, that's just what I've always been. Is that how you are? Like, or do you do both?
So I do both. And sometimes I even switch back to macros just to make sure I'm getting in enough protein. Because I find like, if I don't see how much protein I'm having, I'll start slipping down the slope of like, well, I'll just have macaroni and cheese for lunch and dinner. That's fine. And then you're like, wow, I'm so hungry. Why am I so hungry? Oh, you didn't have protein. Yeah. My struggle too is, so I am still pretty active. So I have a spin bike. So I do spin classes a lot at home. I walk a lot. I still jog a little bit. I do strength. I do a bunch of different things because otherwise I'm just sitting here in my house during the COVID pandemic. So I struggle with like thinking I earned like more calories.
Oh yeah. Are you working from home?
Yeah. So we've been working from home since March 13th, but normally I would go to an office where even then more walking around an office versus you have to walk 2 feet to get to your restroom, whatever. But so I'm always like, and I have like the Apple Watch. So I'll be like, oh,
so when you, this is what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like to get to where you are now.
So I missed, you cut out. I missed your question.
So like where or when exactly was it that you decided like, so your pants ripped, you're like, I'm in it. When was that? Like, how old were you with that? And like, have you always been then going into it like I'm losing the weight once and for all, and you're here where you're at?
So that was November of 2014. So that's actually right when I started my Instagram account too. And so I think for like that first year, I was like gung-ho the whole time, right? And I lost like 40 pounds, like to me quickly, like, and got down, to like what my lowest was at the time. And then I kind of like plateaued. I guess I like stalled out. And so like I said, like I've never been what the BMI scale would say is like regular weight, right? I'm either like overweight or I feel like I'm even still obese. So it was like hard for me to know like whether I should keep going or whether I'm like where my body wants to be. So that's why like I've been trying to like and then I had in the midst of this, like I had a son, right? So I had that 9 months of pregnancy, and then the weight like kind of came back off with tracking. I think I was tracking the Blue plan on Weight Watchers, like whatever that one is called now, where the chicken was free.
Yeah.
With breastfeeding. So for me, I was one of the people who lost weight like quickly because of burning those extra calories through that. So I was really lucky. And then I like got back down to like 160s, which is like where I'm at right now. And I've just been kind of like, you track and then you get off it and then you track. And I came back to iTrackBites after trying it like the first time Weight Watchers got rid of Points Plus, and like the app was so much better. Like
Oh my
there's
God.
so many features.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes. So you've been like, you're doing Whole30 now, I see, correct?
So I'm doing a mini Whole30, which I think is like a mini, I think it's a Whole14, maybe.
Oh, okay. Okay. This is your second time though, right? Because you just completed
Second time this year. Yep.
Okay.
I did a September Whole30.
Wow. Okay. So like, let's talk about Whole30. What has it, especially with being on Points Plus, or sorry, Carb Conscious, with being on Carb Conscious, how does working with Whole30, like with Carb Conscious, we really don't see that or hear that, you know, in this space of people that do that or have. Like, how was that for you?
So I'll talk about it now, but just to let everyone know, I'm also writing a blog post that will come out soon that it kind of talks a little bit more about it. So like, if you're like, what is Whole30? What is she talking about? I'll share that all there. But it's kind of an elimination diet to see if you have food sensitivities, which now that I've done 3 of them throughout my weight loss journey, health journey. I know like what bothers me and what doesn't. And it's not extreme, right? Like I was just talking about how I was eating fat-free dairy, you know, back in the day, no big deal. Now I mostly avoid it. But for me, with a Whole30, you're not supposed to track. Like they say, like, you don't need to track. You're going to naturally eat. No, I'm not. Like if I don't track, I'm going to eat compliant bacon. I'm going to eat all the mayonnaise. I'm going to eat all the ranch dressing, the almonds. Like I would just eat the stuff that is still like treats, you know? So I'm tracking it, and it's making me like control like half a tablespoon of spicy mayo with my potatoes. And like, let's weigh how many potatoes you're having, because otherwise you're probably going to have twice as many potatoes. Like I'm just still like, I need portion control, which is why I'm a tracker.
No, definitely. I feel like we all want to get away from tracking at some point, but it's just like, I don't even like Sherry, because Sherry's been at Goal for like ever, it feels like. But yeah, Sherry said tracking is key, because honestly it is. We can all say, I don't want to do it, yada yada, but like honestly, you gotta track. You track something, no matter. Like, I don't know if people on here like realize that. Like, if you don't track your food, you're still tracking something else. What happens if you don't track your budget or your finances? Honestly, like that's why I always try to tell people, like, if you're not tracking your finances or your budgets, like, and you're just swiping your card, eventually it's going to say decline, because me and my wife have put it on our cards that like, we go 0, like, don't let me spend any more. You know what I mean? But like, that's what's going to happen. You're going to get declined, or you're going to continue to go off, and then all this stuff. And it's like, you're tracking everything else. Why is it so hard or bad to track food? You know what I mean? I think if you do it mindfully and not let it get you.
That's a great analogy. And I know that's what people say. Like people say, like, eventually you'll know, you know, how much chicken you should be eating. But it's like, yeah, when I'm at the store, I know how much I should be buying. But if you see something cool, you're gonna want to buy it. So if you're not mindful of how much money you have, you're gonna come home. It's like going to Target.
And I feel like don't be obsessive on it. But like, I feel like the training tools that you have, and you're training your mind and your body, that's for when you're going out with friends, or that's when you're going out to eat or whatever, or you showed up at mom and dad's house and they're like, hey, we're having this and this. Like, that's when it goes. You know what I mean? That's when you should know your portion control sizes, etc. You know what I mean? But so, question though for you on Whole30, without getting too much into it with your blog post. Yeah. Is it also in your blog post like why you decided to do it?
I mean, I could cover that. I obviously haven't written it yet. So, I mean, I think the answer is like, if you like, based on my history, like originally the reason I tried to do it is because I was like, oh, a new diet, I'll try that. But this was one where you finish it and you feel really awesome. Like weight loss aside, it's like almost like weight loss is a side effect of it. I sleep better when I do it. My skin's better when I do it, because you're cutting out basically like all the processed foods, although that's starting to change because a lot of companies are starting to make Whole30 approved junk food. Like I'm just like junk food. Like I'm gonna have an RX bar tonight, and I'm very excited about it. But I mean, it's the same thing as if I was gonna have like a candy bar. Like it has a little bit more protein, and it's just like dates like mushed up with like nuts, but it's still a treat. It's gonna be pumpkin. It's gonna be delish.
Yeah. So another thing is like I can't wait to see the blog post because I'm really interested to know about like how it eliminates everything, but then you figure out what is it like what you're allergic to or what your body like bloating? Is that what you're talking about? Like other stuff like that? Like what triggers you?
Yeah, I mean some of that, but like some people like figure out that maybe they have celiac disease and they just it wasn't diagnosed, right? Because you're cutting out gluten for such a long time. So there's actually a reintroduction period afterwards where you start adding back like one of the like eliminated food groups at a time. Digestive issues, right? So I guess that's like on the lines of bloating. Like you figure out, what causes those issues for you. And maybe you just took for granted that that's like how you operate as a human. And then you like eat super clean for a month. And then you're like, oh, this is how it could be. So there's a lot of surprises there. If you've been, sugar demon, too much sugar.
Yeah. So pretty much it's like a lot of the documentaries I watch. I am totally like my wife hates it, but I'm like any like documentary on Amazon about like food and health and wellness. I'm like, oh, click. And then like 3 hours later, I'm like on the bed like this. I'm like, honey, did you hear this? And she's like, just shut up, George.
You're like, we're growing plant-based. We got to be vegan. It's the only way.
I'm telling you. And then it's like you watch one and it like makes sense. But then at the end, I can totally tell that they're saying go plant-based. Oh, no. Like, sounds good, but no, can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so with Points Plus, what has been your experience, or with Carb Conscious, what has been your experience with Carb Conscious? As far as, like, why is this the one you do? Why is it, like, for me, like, tried and true, like, Old Faithful? Like, what makes it better for you that you will be on it?
So I think for me, because of the way that the bites are calculated, without like it doesn't penalize foods as much as some of the newer plans. So for me, like sometimes I'm on Whole30 and sometimes I'm still eating like the Whole30 way, which I talked about when I did my Instagram takeover. But sometimes I'm eating in a rush. So sometimes I'm just grabbing Starbucks for breakfast. And sometimes then I'm grabbing something else out for lunch, like Jersey Mike's for lunch. And like being able to fit those types of foods into my points without it being like, oh, that's 25 points because I don't even know how like the calculation works, but like, I don't know, penalizing you for sugar or penalizing you for like the fat content. I just feel like it's easier to just eat kind of like the same amount of calories in the end of the day, like without tracking them directly versus some of the other plans where like you find yourself changing your habits too much for it to be sustainable.
No, that's totally so. Obviously, sustainability is a very big key factor with everybody, with trying to figure out what plan they should be on. Because with anything, like I feel like if you can't, not that you can't put 110% into it, but if it's definitely not something that you can put 80% into it, you know what I mean? Like an 80-20 lifestyle, then it's probably not going to be better off later on. You know what I mean? You know, we always strive to be 100%, but really, truly 80-20 is where it needs to be, because then that 20%, think about it like during your week, 80% of your week, you are totally like on track, even with Whole30, like doing great, whatever. And even if your 20% isn't necessarily like bad food, but say it's just not Whole30 compliant, Jersey Mike's, you know what I mean? Getting some Starbucks, all this stuff, whatever, but it's still a balanced lifestyle.
Right, exactly. And I feel like that's where, when you're off tracking 100%, like you still, like you had habits form that aren't terrible. Like you weren't like, oh my gosh, I haven't had a bagel in 3 months. So now I'm going to eat 4 bagels this weekend with cream cheese and lox and everything else. Like you're like, I know I can fit in half a bagel. So I'm going to have half a bagel. Cause that's like, for me, what you're able to fit anyways. And I think that's why I stopped yo-yoing like once Points Plus was the plan, and then once like I was able to use Carb Conscious on iTrack, like I've never gotten back up to 210. Like I have gotten like 180, 175, whatever, but not like
Yeah,
haven't
not doing all that.
thrown in the towel. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's move on to, because I'm really interested in knowing all about Peloton from you. That is the number one thing that I always like, I don't really scroll on my feed that much. I'm always a story person, but like even on my stories with you, like tell me about it, because obviously I can't fit Peloton in a camper when I head down south for a little bit. But definitely, like I've always told my wife, I was like, I don't think I could go to spin class. I don't know. I think it'd be I'm not that type of person. You would think that I'm more like put myself out there, which I do to like strangers, like everybody else on here. But like in a town that I'm in every time, like I ain't going to spin class. Like that's the way. So how is that with you? How is that?
The best ever. So you're like asking like a Peloton fanatic to talk about Peloton. So I got my Peloton before it was like the biggest thing ever. Like I also think like I'm like cool because I've had it for a long time. So I got it in February 2015.
Oh wow.
I've had it for a long time. And the reason I got it is because when I was in New York City, I was doing Soul Cycle, which I think they're all over the country now. So Soul Cycle is
I love it.
Very intimidating in-person class, right? But in a dark room, encouraging. I loved it. Very pricey too. Like I think one Soul Cycle class is like $32, $35, like for one time, 45 minutes. So when I found out what a Peloton was, I was like, I must have this in my house. Like, and there wasn't Soul Cycle around me. Like, so I could only do spin at the gym. It's just not the same. And so I got the Peloton, and that was again when I was like losing weight like pretty rapidly because I was on it every day. It's the best thing ever. It is not intimidating because you're in your house. You are, it's on a screen. The instructor's like telling you what to do, but they don't know if you're doing it or not. So you can kind of go at your own pace. It has metrics, so like when you turn the knob, like how much harder it's getting and stuff like that. So the other thing that's really great about it is that you can track your progress and you can see how quickly you're improving on it, which I think, you start out walking or jogging. Like it takes a while. Like I've been doing jogging for a long time and I'm still really slow. Like my run is like someone's jog. Like I'm not a fast jogger. I'm 5'2". I already said that, but just a short little legs. It's not good. But on the Peloton, like you can turn up the resistance more, you can pedal faster, like you get used to it and you get like this like score at the end and you just see yourself like getting better and better. Like really quickly. So it's so encouraging. It's the best. And then they have all this other content too. So when you're on your new adventure, I think for like $12 a month is the Peloton app. They have body weight strength, body weight cardio. What's that?
That's what people have told me. Like you can use it for your iPad or your iPhone.
Right.
Or whatever.
Exactly. Yoga, Pilates, outdoor content. So like if you do want to go for a walk or a run or something and you want someone to tell you like, so you get a little bit harder of a workout, like they'll say like, okay, speed up now, and the instructors are like so fun. Like, I don't know, there's like something for everyone because it's like not just these like hardcore, like go as fast as you can, go as hard as you can instructors. Like there's that, but then there's also people who are like, let's do a class of classical music. Let's like just do a low impact ride. Let's do Broadway. Let's do, I did a Rocky Horror Picture Show ride. Like it's so varied. And that's why like I've had it for like 5 years and I'm still on it every day, like almost every day.
I was going to say, do you do it like every day or like 6 days a week or?
Almost every day. So pandemic, I'm exercising way more than I was before. So I took a rest day last Tuesday where I did nothing. And that was the first rest day I did since I think September, where I actually just did nothing. But
do you feel that like your exercise with your Peloton has helped you with your weight loss or helped you sustain where you're at, like 170 pounds or 160 pounds?
So 165 yesterday, just in case we want to be exact. Thanks. let's see if we could see 150s this year, people. Like, I know that that's like, now it's like kind of like aggressive, but with this whole 30 stuff, think about it. So I'm going to say, and this is like not what you want to hear. Like, I don't think all the exercise, like, I think it helps me stay committed to tracking, but I don't think it's like making me lose weight any faster. And I mean, this is a stressful year too. So, right. So I'm on it. I'm closing my Apple Watch rings. I'm like doing all this stuff. I feel like I'm getting stronger. I'm probably like my measurements are probably a little bit better, but I only wear stretchy pants now. So it's hard to tell. Like I'm just wearing yoga pants, like business on top, casual on the bottom, always.
That is, you're on your Zoom calls like, what's up?
Hello, everyone. I'm here to talk to you today.
Oh my gosh, that's too much.
I have slippers on. You don't know that.
That's right. That's right. That's how I'm gonna be when I start doing it again. I'm just literally gonna have a nice like business attire on, but I'm just gonna be in my pajama pants. Be like, no, and I definitely like to tell people on here, especially I've been seeing in the comments that there's a lot of new people that just joined iTrackBites like last week because of the big sale that we had joining us. So congrats to everybody that joined us now. I definitely feel though that's like what makes people realize that like carb conscious really does work a lot, or iTrackBites does, because there are people that I interview that have never once exercised as far as just walking to Walmart, you know what I mean, from the parking lot or whatever, that they're more, and I feel like that's more realistic to people because not everybody, like for me, I was always, what put me off from the Peloton was the price to start with, you know what I mean? And that's when I found out from some of my Instagram friends that they're like, oh no, Jordan, like you get like a Costco one and just use the app and blah, blah, blah. Oh, wow. And then they're like, you can just download the app, you know what I mean, without it, and like treadmill, you know what I mean? Like if you had a treadmill or anything like that. So, but that's really interesting though. You should do a blog post all about that.
Done. Add it to the list.
Add it to the list. No, I love that.
And that's true too. So I'm glad you mentioned the not using like an official Peloton bike. So I didn't mention it, but when I decided to go for the Peloton, I used, and I don't even think they had an app yet. I think they just had like, you could watch a class on the web. I had like $125 Amazon bike that my husband had gotten that we, you pedal on it once every so often, whatever. And then I did the class with that. And that's how I was like, wow, these classes are amazing. Let's go for it. They have really good financing deals too, just so everyone knows. Like, they didn't initially, but it's pretty, if you can fit it in your RV, it's worth it. But
I doubt it. Because it's so funny to talk about that because like we have ours now that we like completely gutted and remodeled this year and did all of our like camping. And then now it's looking like we're going to be buying a different one because we need one that's a little bit bigger. You know what I mean? Because we don't just have one baby, we have two and a Labradoodle. And so we're kind of just like, the main goal, like what I always tell people with this whole transition is we're just selling everything, having a lump sum and going down there, but we're not rushing to be like, hey, we're going to be in Huntsville, Alabama. Like that's where we're going. We're just literally like, hey, I got family that's in Georgia. Like Birmingham is only 2 hours away from them. Let's start there. And really it's a lot about work, trying to figure out with work. You know what I mean? Because I did not know this. I don't know if you knew this as a finance person, but like Alabama is everything for financing, like for like accounting jobs, payroll, anything, benefits, anything like that is all down in Alabama. It's been crazy. Like nothing in Northwest Indiana. I'm just letting you know that here. There is nothing in this area for accountants or, finance people or anything like that. It's crazy.
I did not know that about Alabama, but I don't. Admittedly, I do not know a lot about Alabama. I know like Charlotte, North Carolina is huge too for finance.
I really do. I really have a lot of family friends that are in Georgia, but I don't know. I just really want to get into, I used to love freelancing, working from home. So it's like so funny that people, due to COVID, they're like working at home because I'm like, I used to do that for a living, like before COVID was here. But I'm just ready to get back into it. It's just going to be awesome. I'm just in a little bit slower time. But yeah, so Where do you see, obviously you're like, hey, get into the 150s by the end of the year, but like what's some like 2021 goals for you?
Great question. Things have been so crazy. It's hard to not feel like you're doing the same day over and over. Like when I say like my son's gonna be 3 next month, like I didn't even realize that it's like January's next month. So to ask me about 2021, I
January
mean,
birthday, so is mine.
yeah,
30th, 30th, January 30th.
24th. So I mean, 150s might not happen this year. So I would say that 150s would be a goal for me for 2021. What I told myself, and I think this is what Brianna's doing, one of the other ambassadors, was like, if I can get to like 158, which is a number I've never seen on the scale as an adult, then I can like go into maintenance for a while. But I don't know. I don't know if I'll really do that. Like maybe I'll try. I don't know. Cause it's like I was saying, like I'm gonna have to track anyways. Otherwise I'm just gonna eat like pizza all the time. Like I just am.
It is.
I
can tell you, like if Sherry, so Sherry on here, like she's been a goal for a long time, and I know like Sarah has been in maintenance and all that stuff. Back in 2016 when I got to goal, no one was really there to tell me what to do. You know what I'm saying? So like you go from like being in a deficit and all these bites, hey, lowest I got was this, blah, 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 went into maintenance, but like, then you just kind of fall off, not really fall off, but like, I feel like now, like if this was 2016 and like, we were so invested in iTrackBites and like have an awesome community like we have now, I feel like there's so many people that we could reach out to with maintenance to be like, on the iTrackBites participants page, who's in maintenance, ? And then there'd be like a big feed and be like, okay, hey, I got a question, this and that. Like that wasn't there in 2016. You know what I mean? When I was down at goal. And it sucked because then it's like, you fall off and then 5 pounds. And then you're like, it's just 5 pounds. It's just 5 pounds. Then a month later, it's 10 pounds. And you're like, oh, good God, what am I doing? Come on, Jordan. You've gotten to goal once. Let's get it back. And the next thing you know, 6 months later,
Yep.
So I like that with for a 2016 or for a 2021 goal is figure out the maintenance mode, because I feel like especially if you feel like you might have extra 5 pounds, 10 pounds to lose when you get down to the maintenance portion, like go into maintenance mode, maybe it'd be good for you or good for everybody else to be like, hey, let me see what it's like to maintenance, because obviously you're fresh off. And then if you notice if you're gaining, then you have the smarts to be like, nope, we're going back into weight loss mode. Let's go.
Yep. Yeah, I have 3 different sizes of the same pair of work pants in my closet in case of emergency for these types of situations where you're like, oh, the holidays happen and you're going to go up that size. Oh, like finish Whole 30. Let's put on the small pants. Yeah, the small pants. But, and I mean, like, honestly, like if you look at like the calculator, like my goal weight is supposed to be like 135 pounds, which I can't even like fathom. That like I don't think like maybe 140s, but I doubt it. I mean, my mom weighs like nothing. So like why don't I have her genes? I don't know. She's definitely like never had to worry about her weight. She weighs nothing. Like she probably weighs 110 pounds. So I get it from the Italian side of my family.
I guess. And that's like with Brianna. Like if any of you guys on here, if you don't follow Brianna Diva and Divine, she's another ambassador. Go watch her stories and see what she's doing now. She's kind of doing a refeed type thing to where she is upping her calories to see where her metabolic rate is for maintenance. And you follow her too. It's pretty amazing to know. I've always known that she's been 1,500 calories and now she's at 2,100 calories and her body is still saying the same. Like she's redoing her metabolism, and it kind of is crazy because I've thought about that too, is like, oh my gosh, like it actually works. You know what I mean? But you have to be diligent. You have to be diligent with tracking. You can't just not track to be like, okay, I'm going to see, because it's got to be science, math.
Math, numbers. Yes. And yeah, and I mean, I think she looks at her macros too, right? So she's like, I think she was posting yesterday, 160 grams of protein. Like that's what's important too. And that's what I feel like I'm not ready for. Like I feel like you give me 2,100 calories, I'm going to see like how much damage I can do with that.
I get you. No, I get you.
How many calories are in chocolate cake? That's what I would be looking at.
So one thing that I always ask people that I interview on here is, what is something that you wish somebody would have told you when you first started the journey that you're on?
That's a great question. I feel like I wish someone would tell me that it is a long road, that you can't compare yourself to how quickly other people are losing weight. And that doesn't mean that you're failing. So like progress is progress. And
Yeah.
I think that I still like would get frustrated with myself, like, because I was doing in-person meetings for a while, right? And that's like scary. That's like the scariest thing when you have to step on the scale. You think you had a good week. You did your like little check-in before you went to the meeting to like see what you get. And then you step on the scale and they're like, you're like up 0.2. And you're like, what? And then that like ruins like your whole, like everything you thought was going well. So like, but if you look at like over the year or over like 3 months, like it's probably going down. Like there's a
Yeah.
trend that you need to focus on. And I feel
Yeah.
like it took me years of looking at that data to be like, all right, like things are looking good. Like I'm so hard on myself when I have a bad week, like so hard on myself. It's like dumb. Like don't be like that. And like I feel like having more stories of people who say like it was like a 3-year process for me, or like, you know, it was this or that. Like not everybody's going to say I've been tracking for 6 months and I lost 50 pounds, but some people are, and that doesn't make them any better than you. You know, we're all different. Like the DNA, we're all just different. So
Oh yeah. No, I love that so much, honestly, because I feel like, who cares as long as you get there? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like this. Like, say you have a dream. Like, say with your job. Say you go with a company. Like, hey, you know, because I just influencer that I'm really close with. She worked for a company. She started out as the first employee as a receptionist. Okay. 6 years later, she was second in command. Second in command. Okay. So think about that. She probably, when she first started with them, was like, oh my gosh, I could do this. Or, man, that's like what I would love to. But it took her 6 years to get there. But who cares? When she was there after 6 years, she didn't care about anything else. You know what I mean? She wasn't like, oh God, this 6 years really sucked. It was wrong. You know what I mean? No, she's living the high life now because it's been 6 years and now she's where she wants to be. And I feel like that's probably what everybody else says is like, when you get to goal, like, who cares if it took you 3 years? Kudos to those people that lose 100 pounds in a year and get to goal. Kudos. You know what I mean? Like, I, in 2016, lost 45 pounds in 4 months. You know what I mean? It just, it doesn't make me any better. It doesn't make you any better. It's just, who cares once you get there? You know what I mean? Who cares how long? Love that. So what is some last minute before we get off here, because we were almost at the hour mark. Was somebody starting? So there's a lot of people on here that is starting now. What is some like words of encouragement for them as of right now? Not like what you know, from what you've learned or anything else like that. Like, what is something you would say like for them to start now, don't wait, etc.?
So I think the sooner you start this as a habit, the better. I think that this is a challenging time to start. And you guys talked about this a lot last week too. Like, you know, Christmas is just one day. Christmas Eve is just one day, you know, whatever you're celebrating. But if you could just get used to the action of tracking, even if you're not saying like, you know, like we were just talking about for me, like, oh, maybe I'll hit 150s, you know, but maybe I won't. Maybe the chocolate's going to come in the mail and I'm going to eat it. And just like starting to get mindful about like the choices you're making, I feel like that's an accomplishment. So I would just go into just getting used to the app. Like the app has so many features, and I know there's a lot of content out there, and you know all the admins on the iTrackBites Facebook page are so helpful with posting it. Like once you get used to like some of these tips and tricks, it's not frustrating. Like it's frustrating at first because you're like, oh my gosh, there's like 12 entries for bananas. If you eat bananas every day and you're on a plan that tracks them, you just hit the heart, just favorite it, you know, like get your list of foods you usually eat, like do the swipe where you can like add food to today. So I use that a lot. Like we have our
go-to. I'll go like 3 days back and I'll be like, oh, my breakfast, I'm gonna have that again, and then be like, copy it today.
Exactly. Like our like weekend meals out, like we'll do like Five Guys, we'll do Jersey Mike's, like I mentioned. So you just go back to that day and just copy back over. Like you don't have to search. Like maybe you spent some time like going through the menu and like figuring it all out. You only need to figure it out once. And then it's just like, unless you're eating like completely different meals every single day, which who is like, where most of us are home a lot, you know, like you have a lot of common stuff. And then like play around with the fun stuff, like the recipe section with like all the filters that iTrackBites has is like so amazing. Like there's a Whole30 filter. Like you might not even know what Whole30 is because you didn't read my blog yet because I didn't write it yet. But you can find recipes that'll be like, oh, like these are the kinds of foods that you can like.
Yeah. That's awesome. One thing, I don't know if you use this or not, but I have been noticing lately when I scan, it comes up great, but it'll be like, so put it this way, like, trying to think, like, I had some like low sodium Pringles the other day for like with my turkey sandwich for lunch or my turkey wrap. And it was like 15 things of Pringles, okay? And I've never been that person. I always like to weigh by grams. Like, that's just how I am. Mm-hmm. And when it came up and it said 15, I was just like, oh, I need to know grams. And so when I looked at the thing, it said like 28 grams or whatever it was. You can edit it, y'all. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize that. Like, click edit and you can change the metrics on it to where it'll go to grams rather than, you know, ounces or whatever. Like, I don't know if you use that a lot.
So I just learned about it too. I think someone maybe had a question about it because I'm the same way. Like, I'm used to weighing everything in grams. And yeah, you just click like the 3 dots or whatever, and then you can like make it, and then it's in your favorites and you have it and you don't have to worry about it again. So it's like, there's a learning curve. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you like get going now, when January 1st hits and everyone else joins iTrackBites, like you're sailing.
And even I really like that. Like, get used to the app because let's be real. I'm not stupid. There's a lot of people on here, a lot of people that are joining iTrackBites now for the price, and they're getting ready to, but they're like, listen, I'm not committing till January 1st. You know what I mean? Kudos to you guys. Like, you don't have to start tomorrow. You don't have to start today. But you're already taking a step by getting the app before January 1st comes. You know what I'm saying? But like you said, get used to the app. That can be the scariest thing about it is the app. Because if you're like me, like before with iTrackBites, when I first started a couple of years ago, I went around with a lot of my stuff that I did because I came from a different platform. So it's like I had to redo it all over again. Like, save my bread, I always did. You know what I mean? Save the lunch meat, I always did. The light mayonnaise, you know, all that stuff to where it's like, this is great. And also, just like what you said with the 3 dots, if you scan something, to everybody out there, if you scan something and it comes up with the wrong nutrition facts, which everybody's human, it could be, it's not even really people that did it. It could be just the manufacturers decided to change it and it hasn't updated in the system. As long as you click those 3 dots and edit it, and you put in the new everything on there and you click save and add it to your favorites, every time you scan it, it'll come up with those new nutrition facts.
Oh,
you don't have to keep doing it.
I did not know that.
Yep. As far as that's what I've noticed. Watch, I tell you guys to do it, and you guys are gonna be blowing me up in the DMs like, George, you're such a liar.
No, that's cool.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say before we get off here? It's been awesome.
I mean, so I don't know if anyone replied to Valerie, but she talked about sourdough bread, and that's one of my grams items. So I found an entry. So when I am eating bread, which I do on a very regular basis, avocado toast is my jam. I always weigh it, and I could have like, I think like 53 grams of bread, which I weigh toasted. So toasted bread weighs less than untoasted bread. So
there you go.
And I think it's like 3 bites on Carb Conscious. So have sourdough bread, especially if you're making it. Send me some sourdough bread. I would love some homemade sourdough bread because I'm not making it.
Especially like on TikTok and Reels and all that stuff. Do you remember like not long ago, everybody was making the sour bread and I was like, oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. Love it. So
the only thing I got into is I did the clothes stripping thing that whatever, I don't, you know, like whatever that page is that's like about the cleaning stuff. You guys know.
Yeah.
Ready to buy like Tide and all. I tried that. That's the only TikTok thing.
Yep. So, all right, Amber.
All right.
Anything else? That
is it. So before I go so far off topic that you guys are like, I thought this was an iTrackBite reading why is she talking about TikTok and laundry stripping. I think we could probably end it. And for the people who missed, like, what is Whole30? I'm doing a blog post. It's going to be published this weekend, and then I'm going to answer questions a little bit later in the month too. So if you want to read that and then ask me some questions, you get it from somebody who's like also a donut eater. I feel like that's like where I'm like a balancey person. So I feel like I'm a good person to like let you know that it's not like good food are good, foods are bad kind of a thing. Yeah. So it's just like a fun experiment.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Amber. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is so much fun. I'm usually like in chat with all you guys. So I'm going to read all the messages after this. So awesome. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
All right, Amber. I will see you later, okay?
All right. Thanks.
All right, bye. All right, guys. Thank you so much for an awesome week. This was awesome. Such a good time with Amber, getting to know everything. And I don't know about you, but I'm super excited to see her Whole30 blog post this weekend. So once again, guys, hit that up if you don't know. Also, just want to let you guys know, there has been a lot of iTrackBites coaches that were announced today, yesterday and today, which is amazing. There's a lot of people I know in the virtual world that got into it. So if you don't know who they are, go on iTrackBites.com, look up your ambassadors, look up your coaches. Those are the people for you to get to know everything iTrackBites. So my name is Jordan Clyde from Clyde's Daily Life over on Instagram, your weekly live iTrackBites meeting host. And so I hope you guys have a fabulous rest of your week. And it looks like I'm getting back to finishing up my house.